Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Now my dad's locked himself away today, gas flowing, so he's left me in charge to do a bit of vlogging today. So I'll show you what I'm working on. This is a new customer. It's another Formula Ford Crossflow. Yeah, this one's a new customer. So I've already stripped the engine and it's been in the acid. I didn't video that, but I've just took it out of the acid today. So now we can actually have a good see of what we need to do to this. And there's a few things I've noticed, like someone's took a grinder to that there and not made a very nice job of it and left a sharp edge. So I'm going to clean that up, and then we'll completely weigh and balance the whole rotary assembly. Valves get reconditioned. Everything's going to get painted. The block we're going to give a reface and a light hone, and then get some measurements off that. And then I noticed these Crossflows, they do get hot on the exhaust side, but I'm noticing it looks like that's lost a bit of shape there, so I'm going to skim all the faces on this cylinder head. I've already pressure tested this and it's passed pressure test. Yeah, I'm going to skim all the faces on that, and then the flywheel could do with a bit of a reface as well. It's had a bit of heat go through it, but it's actually left a bit of a step there. Doesn't feel massive, but whilst we're at this stage we may as well get that done. And then yeah, after all the machining's done, we make sure it's all in tolerance, get it through the wash, give it a coat of paint and get it back together. So that's the Crossflow, all the faces all cleaned up on it. Gone round, deburred them all. You want to get rid of all the sharp edges, because a sharp edge, you know, you can start to form a crack across there, or even cut your skin. So yeah, completely deburred it all, cleaned up all the faces, gone round everything. So now I'm just going to give it a quick light reface, go up and down it with the honer, and then the only other thing I'm going to do is, because these engines don't really make a lot of horsepower and you can't really do a lot to them, so you just want to try and free up as much horsepower as possible. So I'm going to put the caps on, torque the caps up, and then measure the mains and make sure the mains are just all bang in line in case we need to line hone it. But you know, these don't really move, these old engines, they're not under a lot of stress, so this should be all good. Now what I've done here is I've just gone over the block face with a blue pen. The reason I've done this is I've just started skimming it, and the block is actually warped in quite a few places. It's only a small amount of warp, so I'm hoping doing the top of the block in blue, if I now lightly go back over it, you should see the low spots. Let's give it a go. And there you go, you can see them there. So I just lightly went back over it, and you can see between 3 and 4 it's warped quite bad, and then going out to this waterway over here and slightly off. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to take some measurements off it, from the bottom of the mains to the top of the block, and then keep going until that blue disappears. And the reason I'm taking a measurement, because it's a race engine, I just want to keep note of exactly what I take off this deck. But yeah, it's quite bad. I've just been and double checked. Is what I've done is I've left that a real smooth finish on there. You'd see that sort of finish on like a lot of modern stuff with multi-layer steel head gaskets, Vauxhalls and VXRs and all that stuff. You want a real smooth gasket, but because this engine's running just a standard gasket, you want it to be a bit coarser than that, so it grabs hold of the gasket and stops it from being able to move. So I've just made that a nice smooth finish, but now I'm going to go and rough it back up again. Finished skimming the Xflow, and whilst I was skimming it I took some measurements off it because it was slightly warped. Now I put the vernier on it, zeroed it, and I've put it back on. You just see there we've machined 3.5 thou off. So it's good to keep a note on stuff like that, so if you ever have a problem with piston height or anything, you'll know that you took 3.5 thou off the block, so you know what needs to come off the pistons if you need to get it back to where it needs to be. Yeah, it's looking loads better now. So now I'm going to carry this over the road and give it a home. Finally unlock the door. Hello.
Hello.
What are you doing?
That's blowing the cylinder on. Sorting out the combustion chamber. What are you doing?
Just been doing the Xflow. Come over here to hone it. Oh. You having fun?
Loving life. Today I'm balancing a Lotus twin cam crankshaft assembly. This has been balanced before, but my customer just needs to make some alterations to it, and part of that means we're going to have to just rebalance it again. So the first job that I've got to do is weigh all the individual components. So here we've got the crankshaft, which will balance this first. So I'll weigh this, get this on the machine, balance this as its own entity, and then I'm going to balance the front pulley assembly, the flywheel and the clutch. I will then bolt the front pulley assembly on and the flywheel, and then balance those two items by swapping the machine over to a different setting, and then bolt the clutch on and balance that as well. The first thing for me to do is to get the scales turned on and find a sharpie. Right, so the first thing that I want to balance is the crank. Or weigh, sorry, is the crank. And then what I'm going to do is just with a sharpie write the weights of everything on there, on each item. I'll just check the dowels, they shouldn't really affect it. No, they're zeroed. And then the next thing is the front pulley and the front pulley bolt. And the flywheel and the flywheel bolts. And then the last thing is the clutch cover and the clutch cover bolts. Right, so what I need to do now is to start to put the crankshaft details into the balancing machine. I've got a Lotus twin cam on here, so what I'll do is load that one up first, but then just check the information is right for it in case I need to change any of the settings over. Putting the drive belt onto the balancer, and then straight away this must be a standard crank because the weight's different. So the first thing I'm going to change is the weight to 13.25. And then I'm going to just check that these sizes up here are right as well, so tape measure out for that. So it's 35. Yeah. And the correction radius is 65. Yeah. So all the settings are right, it's just the weight that's different. So what I'll do is I'll see if it changes the correction factors. No, it hasn't. Okay, right. So for me to pick up, the RPM, I need to put some reflective tape at TDC. I'll also put it at TDC because that gives me a reference of where I need to drill into the crank. So I'm just going to cut myself a tiny bit of reflective paper. And I need to just zero my sensor. It's quite sensitive, so it picks up on any oil and bits on the seal face. Okay. So I put a bit of tension onto the crank, not too much because I don't want to sort of push it down, I just want it to rotate it basically. So I'm going to start the crank rotating. And what that noise is the oil galleries in the crankshaft. So I'm just going to, with an Allen key, just move it over a little bit. So we're testing at 800 RPM, so I'm just going to increase the speed to that. I'm going to let it run a few times just so I get a good reading from it. I'm going to print the data, and then basically it's ever so slightly out of balance but exactly opposite each other. So as a mass, as a unit, it's in balance actually. But what we want to do is get these two down, which is there and roughly there. And someone's hit it with the grinder before quite a lot. Going to print out my sheet for my customer so he's got a copy of all of this as well. So I'm going to take the crank off the stand and first of all actually mark where I need to modify it, which is about there. And about there. So we're going to see how that's affected it at the start. Straight away the RPM's picking up a double signal. There we go, it's in balance now. So both sections are green. So now that's done, what I'm going to do is bolt on the front pulley and the flywheel, but I need to change the settings in the machine. So what it's doing is it's taking, the machine is set at the moment, so it takes the reading from inside of these two hard centres. So what I'm going to do now is change the machine so it knows that it's taking the reading, or it's making the reading the out of balance from the outside of these two wheels, of the four wheels. So what I'm going to do is look for Lotus twin cam on the computer, as it says bearing 1. In fact, that shows it actually a bit better. So at the minute we're reading from bearing 1. Bearing 1 is saying that it needs to take weight from inside of the hard centres. So what we now need to do is change it to bearing reading 2. So I'm going to have a quick look to see if I've got Lotus twin cam on here. Doesn't look like I have. Okay. No. So what I'll do is I'll just add it. Bearing mode 2. Lotus twin cam. I'm going to read it at 800 RPM, and then basically we need to start bolting more bits on it. So that's the flywheel and the front pulley is now bolted to the crankshaft assembly. I've changed the settings in the balancer, so we're going to give it its initial run and see what it's like. it's taking a reading now. I'm going to let it run a couple of times just to settle. And as you can see here, the flywheel is out of balance, but the front pulley is in balance. I'm going to print a copy for the customer, and I'm going to find a drill to drill where this is out, which is basically here. I think this drill's on its way out. Stinks. Right, we put a little hole in there, so let's just see what that's like now. So it's come down, but we need to get a bit more out of that. In exactly the same place though. We're getting it quite close now, but I'm just going to keep trying to tweak it in because I want both sides green. I want to get them really bang in the centre of the target. So I'm really happy with the flywheel and clutch side. I just want to try and bring in the front pulley side. The number is reading higher, but it's doing that because it's trying to take it off a smaller diameter. As long as it's green, it's good. There we go. It's coming right into the centre. I might just try and give it a little bit more. That's the problem with this machine. You do get pretty much addicted to trying to chase numbers to get them right down, but as long as the machine lights up green, we're good. Brilliant. So I'm going to hold the data at that, print and save it, so my customer's got a working copy. But basically both targets we've got really good now. They're right in the middle of the computer screen, so I'm really happy with the end result on that. So all I've got left to do on this is mark. I'm just going to put more marks on the clutch and flywheel, get it all off the machine, and my customer will be on his way to pick it all up. Let's see what other work we can get done for the video. That's the Lotus crankshaft assembly balanced. So I'm on with the A series head again today, and I've been shot blasting the valves, getting ready to face them. I've polished the stems, but what I've noticed is a couple of things. The tip of the valve, I'll try and get a better capture of it. The tip of the valve is quite bad. I mean, it's beat to death. So what I can do is I can top these valves and repair the damage on the tip of, there's about 3 of them that are quite bad. That one there is the worst. That one's quite bad. So I can repair that, and then the customer's going to have to check the rocker as well. The next thing that I've got to do is replace the valve guides, because there's some quite bad valve guide wear in there. So I need to do that before I can cut the seat and lower the combustion chamber. I'll just show you the inlet. There's loads there, look. And here the inlet valve sits level with the combustion chamber, but on, let me just get that valve out. But on this one here, it sits low by a fair bit. I'd say that's about 60 thou. So first thing I'm going to do is the guides, then sort out the combustion chamber, then reface, and then wash it and build it. So the next thing that I've got to do on this A series valve is to clean up the tip of the valve, and it's called topping it. So to do that on my Comac machine, I've changed the angle of the machine to a 0 degree, and I fitted the valve holder attachment in. So the next thing to do is to just switch the machine on, wait for the suds to come, and then it's a case of just putting the valve in, and then just really carefully running along the top until it's nice and flat. Now, the camera's not picking it up, but there's still some damage there, so we've got to go again with that. Yep, still a little bit there. And that's clean. So the next thing on the Warrior is, now the stem is polished and I've shot blasted them, what I'm going to do now is just clean the tops of the valves up and reface them. So I'll do that on time lapse. Well, it ain't stopped raining all day. The workshop's leaking everywhere. I think we've got to address the roof situation soon, but we've got a leak down here. We've got a leak on the pickup, all on the floor there, and then it's leaking at the top of the stairs and leaking here as well, and then leaking over the dyno and up there. So yeah, it's a bit of a stressful day really, but there we are. Can't rain all the time. So what I'm doing now on the Mini is lowering the combustion chamber because of this pulled seat. Now what I'm going to do, just to get it down nice and even, because someone's ported this and it all tapers away, but I just use a normal router and then set my depth, and then basically I can carefully just watch where I'm going and then neaten up the combustion chamber. So that's exactly what I'm going to do now. What I am going to do is just to put 2 strips of emery across there just to protect the head face. so now I've lowered the combustion chamber, so that's increased the volume in the combustion chamber. I've got it down to the wear mark on this inlet seat. So now what I'm going to do is just cut all the seats to match this. It's lowered the compression to make this race cylinder head more safe for the road, and then it's a wash off and put it back together. The Mini's now in for the seat cut, and where I've lowered it all, hopefully it will give me a bit more meat around the actual the seat and the top cut and the bottom cut. So I've set the mirror up now. I'm going to do the worst one first, the one that's pulled through the most, because then I can measure off that and set them all to the same height. So the mirror is self-centralising now. It's still very thin around the actual seat. I mean, there's more now on there than what there was originally, but whoever ported this originally has kind of ported it to death, really. But what's good now is I've managed to get a top cut on around here where it's levelled it off, and the valves now sit in level with the combustion chamber, where if we'd have left it the way it was, it would have been sitting quite low. On to the next one. I'm also turning this part of the seat cutter to the same position. I've got a white mark on there, so basically I know that roughly my depths are going to be the same. So that's 2 turns out. So what I'll do is I'll carry on doing this, and then I'll show you the finished product once I've cleaned it all up and dressed it and made it look a bit better. So that's the A series head all back together, and the valve that had all the damage on the tip is this inlet valve. And what I've done is I've purposely put that in the seat that was too deep, that had pulled through, to try and recover a little bit of the height of the for the tappet to clear. The one thing I have got to do, which I noticed earlier, is where this valve has sank into the seat, we've lost a bit of the installed height out the spring. So I'm going to take this one back off. I've measured the difference, and then I'll put another shim underneath the spring to get the installed height right. So that's the A series all back together. I'm just going to measure the valve heights quickly. I know they're pretty good because of the seat cutter. We're going to have one inlet that's a little bit lower, but there's not really a great deal I can do about that. So I'm using this Mitutoyo depth mic for that. I'll start with the exhausts and then the inlets. I'll do the 3 that I know are pretty close first. So I've got 5 thou tolerance between all the good ones, and then the one what sank into the seat a little bit more is 15 thou down. That's the one that's also got the top, the valve that's been topped. But it's all ready for the customer now. So what I've done with this is I've fitted a new set of bronze guides because we had too much play, reconditioned the valves, fixed the tops of the valves because they'd all distorted quite bad, especially this inlet valve here, and then because this valve had sunk right into the seat, I've then machined the combustion chamber on all 4 cylinders to lower the combustion chamber. This is also an old race head, so in fact it had way too much compression for the road, and the valves are massive, so my customer wanted this head repairing. I think really another like lead-free more of a fast road head would have been better, but we've managed to repair it. The combustion chamber's lower, so we would have lowered the compression. We've cut all the seats, so that's it, ready for him to collect now. It's just come out the wash. I'm quickly just going to vac test it on the machine just to make sure that all the valves are sealing perfectly, and that's that job done.